the wrong chair, but we'll rock with it. Lone Wolf Realty back on again.
Mm-hmm.
Back at it.
After the Spyglass move, like we talked about, with them being down south, we get to see them more. I love it.
Absolutely.
So let's cut right to it for the first part. I mean, we're down here for a Buda listing that we just landed. Congratulations.
Thank
What's
you.
the address of the property so I can edit this quickly and get it out there as a promo?
456 Sabino, Buda, Texas. It's a 4-bedroom, 3-bath, 2,341 square feet. Chesmar build. It was built in 2022. Client got a relocation deal, moving across country, and we have basically a brand new house available for sale, and it is priced aggressively.
Yep.
Nice.
It's immaculate, too. We saw it this morning for pictures, and it's the cleanest house I've ever seen.
Well,
It's
Buda's
amazing.
got great deals, and from what I understand, the tax rates are pretty low. So, for those of you in Austin, and this is something I talk about a lot as the lender. We kind of give a general jump-off point of what someone can qualify for as far as a pre-approval is concerned, and just using round numbers, we'll say our random buyer is approved for $500,000. Well, your $500,000 is going to go a lot further in, say, like Buda, opposed to like if you're purchasing something in the heart of Austin, just because of those tax rates. It's something I run into on a semi-regular basis, unfortunately, with the affordability crisis right now. But yeah, like Buda, low taxes, big. What's the square footage again?
2431.
It's a good size house.
Yep.
It's a good size house.
High ceilings too. Ton of light.
Well, and what we're seeing too is we're seeing a lot of these sellers that are willing to help out with buying those interest rates down. I literally just got a buyer set up. We're closing today, and I can't believe I'm going to say this because the rate sounds so high, but we were able to get that rate down to 4.125%, which, a few years ago, people would be like, what are you talking about? But nowadays, a 4 1/8 is like almost unheard of.
That's sexy rate.
Yeah, I agree. So those are things that, we as lenders have been screaming at the top of our lungs for almost a year now that seems to finally be hitting the real estate community. And then when it hits the real estate community, it finally hits the buyer or the sellers themselves. So this seems to be the way to get your house sold. Use some of that equity instead of coming down on the purchase price and entice buyers with low rates. We can help you do that. So
We had that conversation this morning. So we were initially going to price at $49,990. He gave me a call. We had that conversation up front. We are now pricing at $499,999 or $990,999. I'm not sure which one yet, but to allow for that scenario.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm encouraging all buyers. We've even had situations where buyers have been making offers over ask, but then obviously asking for the difference back so that they can buy the interest rate to combat some of those affordability issues. So
in that scenario, not to throw you on the spot at all,
no,
but if you get like say on a $499,990 and we get the offer of that, but with $10,000 concessions, how much can that actually affect the rate?
So what I've been telling people is the easiest way to do this is because there's not a dollar figure answer. It's more of a percentage. In other words, what I've been encouraging people to do is, in order to really drastically affect that interest rate, I mean, don't get me wrong, every little bit helps. But in this case, you're talking about basically a $500,000 deal with a $10,000 seller concession. That's 2%. That's really what it takes to make the needle move. In a situation like that, we can usually get that start rate, down about 2% from whatever, that top end rate is right now. So we're seeing stuff right at about that 7% range. So that would put us in a position to get that interest rate down to about a 5% based on today's pricing. Got to give that disclaimer. If rates go down, they go down for you as well. If they go up, it's going to be based on when you lock that loan in. But I tell people like 2% is good. 3% is ideal. That's really going to give you put you in a position to reduce that interest rate quite drastically and maybe cover some of your costs. Anything over 3%, I mean, that's amazing. The situation that I mentioned going down to 4 1/8, I mean, that was one where I believe we were able to get a full 6% seller concession on an FHA deal and buy that interest rate all the way down to 4 1/8. And it's pretty wild, what it makes in terms of a difference in the payment. In this case, it was like a $400,000 purchase, and that payment difference between not buying the interest rate down and buying it down was like $850 a month.
Wow.
A month. So that's your truck payment. right? I mean, here in
Wow.
Texas, the payments I see on these damn trucks, man.
Yeah.
People love their trucks. That's your truck payment right there. So it really is something that is worth having a conversation. And I think the reason that it's taken this long to get here is because those conversations aren't easy, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Not only because sellers are giving up potential profit, but because I think that not everybody fully understands it. And so I feel like the real estate community has finally got their head wrapped around it. They've been able to regurgitate it to the buyer, but still, I can see if this isn't something that you do every day,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the concept is kind of like, okay, I'm paying more, but I'm getting the money back and I'm using it towards this and I'm reducing my payment. And that's typically, you know, it's cliche, but have them call a licensed lender like myself. It's literally what I do for a living. I can break it down into bite-sized pieces and explain everything in terms of these buy downs and how they work and how they make sense. And
So let's go a different scenario. We got another listing going live on Friday, 1.75 mil. That's going to be 13 square feet, 5-bed, 4-bath on 7.5 acres on the San Gabriel River.
Yep.
Okay, now let's talk about 2 points on that scenario.
Sure.
Okay, so let's just say we have, so percentage-wise, we would need 2% off that purchase price to be able to buy that rate down.
Correct.
And it's going to be off the financed amount.
Correct.
So let's say I need to run quick math. Sorry, I'm not going to do 2% that fast.
What was the purchase price again?
1.75.
Okay, so I mean you're reducing by 340,000, so 765. You're talking about
35,000.
Yeah.
Okay, we could have done 17
job,
times
maths.
2. Yeah, sorry. Okay, so in that scenario, we would need an offer of 1.75, but we would do a reduction, so it'd be 35 off of that. So we're looking at 1.715. Okay.
Yeah, I mean we don't do too many of these buy downs on these large of properties, mainly because rich people just don't seem to care. But they're available, and I'd love to have that conversation and explain how, you know, that all works. But I'll be the first to admit, every time I have the conversation, most of the people that I'm dealing with that are in that, you know, jumbo loan limit and everything, they're kind of like, throw it in the bag. You know, we're going to buy it. We're going to get it done. And then when rates come down, we'll refinance.
And okay, on a payment scenario,
Oh,
how
God.
much? Yeah, how much will that affect it though?
Well, I mean, I would just say that at the end of the day, when you're talking anything about percentages, if every 400,000 is going to save, you know, roughly, if we're able to get to 2%, I mean, it's going to save about 600 per 400,000, because that's what this was the other deal that we're closing today. So that's on the loan amount. So it's going to be about 5 times that. So, you know, it's going to save you about $3,000 a month. It's a lot of money. But then again, when you're financing, you know, $1.4 million, I mean, that payment on $1.4 million, I mean, with taxes and insurance, hell, it's probably going to be $20,000 a month, easily.
Wow. And in those scenarios, right, it is rare to be at 20% down. You're typically seeing higher. Are you going full jumbos on those? Or are you seeing more conventionals right now?
Well, I mean, once we get over a financed amount of 700 and, you know, whatever thousand, it becomes jumbo. They have to put down 20%.
Yeah.
We do jumbo financing with 10% down, but I'll be the first to tell you right now, it is ugly, and I haven't seen anybody take advantage of it. It's almost like if you can afford to put the 20% down, it absolutely makes sense. So that's what I'm seeing most people with jumbo financing doing. They're putting down that 20%, and then again. Yeah, I mean,
when we say ugly, just to clarify for everyone listening, it gets ugly on the
interest rate side.
Okay.
So jumbo
and mortgage
financing,
insurance?
I mean, well, no, jumbo loans don't carry a mortgage insurance, so that's kind of a little bit of the trade off, and that is one of the things that I explain in terms of the selling the high rate. It's like, well, you might have a PMI, right? And I'm glad you brought this up because we haven't actually talked about this. One thing that people don't know about mortgage insurance is that it's based on an interest rate itself. I run into these scenarios where people are like, I don't want to pay PMI. And it's like, okay, well, let's talk a little bit about that because we do have scenarios where we can eliminate mortgage insurance, but all we're going to do is raise your interest rate.
Yep.
So it doesn't matter if you're paying it to interest or you're paying it to a private insurance company. None of it benefits you. It's really just about what are you going to pay monthly. So for somebody who's got decent credit and is putting, 10% down on a conventional loan, typically mortgage insurance is going to run about 0.5% of the loan amount divided into 12 months. That's how we're going to calculate what your monthly mortgage insurance is. With jumbo, they don't carry a monthly mortgage insurance, but it is definitely baked into the interest rate. And so we usually see interest rates about 1.5% to 2% higher than if you're going to put down that additional 10% to hit that 20%
So today
range.
we're looking at 8.5% on a jumbo with 10% down?
Probably closer to like 9.5%. It's like I said, it's ugly. And then when people hear that, they're like, oh my goodness, that's crazy. And then usually what ends up happening is one of two things. Either A, they figure out a way to put down the additional 10% because it legitimately makes that much sense. Or B, unfortunately, they kind of get spooked, not only because of the rate, but because an additional 1 to 1.5% when you're financing like $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
It's 5-figure difference in your payment.
And then it goes back to, do I really want to buy this type of home at that price point in this market right now? Maybe I should just stay put, or are we just going to go in the middle and be happy with that, but find that middle house doesn't usually please them enough to sell the current house?
Yeah, I mean, not to be stereotypical, but, being most of my high-end clients that are buying really expensive homes are not only putting down 10%.
Yeah.
And the ones that are, they're on the verge of not being able to afford it. It's more of, in my opinion, I get to see all the nuts and bolts and finances. It's more like a keep up with the Joneses type of thing, buying a house they can barely afford. Because the other thing is like, if you think about it, if you're purchasing, say, like a $900,000 home and you're only putting down 10%, you don't even necessarily have to put down the other 10%, because once you get to that like $756,000, you're no longer in that jumbo range, right? So it's really like that $1 million mark where putting down 20% is when it matters, because even at 20%, you're still at $800K. I mean, I've even had situations where people put down like 22, 23% because they just want to get out of that jumbo status and into a conventional loan just because it's easier, it's better pricing, it's a smoother process. But yeah, once you get into that over $1 million echelon, I very rarely run into people who are like, I want to buy this home, I only have 10% down, and then they move forward with it. It's just...
I'd be curious to run the numbers on MLS data to see how that price point is doing on the market overall.
I would love to know that too. I just closed on $1 million transaction, or well, it was 2 point something. The loan amount was 1.9 million. We just closed on it on Monday, but I have not had a jumbo transaction probably since springtime.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And for 2022, I was the number one jumbo loan officer for Gold Star in terms of the amount of jumbo loans being done. So I'm definitely qualified to have my pulse on the jumbo market. And I would say I probably did like 2 or 3 this year.
Okay.
So it's not doing as well. But then again, keep in mind, I mean, a lot of these deals are done in cash. I talk to agents that do these deals, and, the ones that operate in that market, the ones that refer me these high-end jumbo deals, and a lot of them are saying they're just being done in cash, that they're selling their property and then they're just kind of swapping it over to their new property, maybe throwing a couple, $100,000 in addition for the upgrades and calling it a day.
Okay.
We're going to get there soon, though.
Yeah.
I want to be able to just buy a multi-million-dollar property without in cash. Just don't think about it, right? So
A few years.
Yeah, we're working on it. We're young. We're still young.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, jumbo, I think, has been hurting. I'm glad that you brought up the mortgage insurance situation, because that is definitely something that we haven't talked about. That it's so interesting to me, some of the things that people get hung up on. People get very, very fixated on interest rates when they're going up. People get very, very fixated on mortgage insurance because it's a waste of money. But then again, so is interest. So no one really bats an eye about taxes.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't benefit you in any way. You're paying towards, well, I mean, I guess you could argue full circle. Maybe it does. You get some new roads and sidewalks and updated schools. But, in the grand scheme, it's not something that like is a direct impact on you immediately, and nobody says anything about like, oh, I'm gonna work on, I'm not buying this house because of the taxes. It's just interesting,
I got a scenario like that where that has popped up, and it was a rare scenario.
Mm-hmm.
You live in Travis County in South Austin.
Yep.
But you're zoned for Hayes County schools.
Mm.
You're paying property taxes on both counties.
Wow.
So
Okay.
if you live in the hills of Estancia,
He's doing the table thing.
sorry. If you live in hills of Estancia, you're paying property tax on both counties.
Gross.
And like no one even, I think that he wouldn't have caught it
He wouldn't have caught it
until we're selling it. Like
they I don't know, I'm not going to say the name who it was, but reached out to me and was like, I'm paying property taxes in both counties, and they're saying I haven't paid these taxes, but it's already been in my mortgage. What's going on with that? And I was like, let's look into it. And we found out it was because he has to pay property taxes for the school district.
I gotcha. So he wasn't able to like remove that. That wasn't a mistake. That was correct.
That is correct, and that property he's paying on both.
Well, as long as we're talking about taxes, I have one that we haven't talked about on any of these podcasts that I've been seeing coming up a lot because we're watching a lot of people purchase new builds.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So, what's a mud tax?
Municipal Utility District.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So how does all of that work? Because I've seen some of these mud taxes,
I'll summarize on what it is.
Sure.
The builder puts his utilities on the
Utility cost, yeah.
the utility cost onto the development.
Mm-hmm.
He's now leveraging that cost back onto the homeowners for putting that in and throwing it as a mud.
Yeah, it's just typically you have a higher tax rate there. So like we used to live in Lively Ranch in Georgetown, and our tax rate was like 2.9.
Hands are off the table.
I know.
But that's like 2.9 total.
2.9 total.
And that's broken into county plus
County
mud
and
plus.
and all the things. So it's
Pool
it's
plus.
typically higher. We still live in a mud technically
Mm-hmm.
because we have new build again, but our tax rate's significantly lower.
And does that ever go away?
It will go away. It just takes a very long time.
Mm.
So I just set up a listing in Carriage Hills in Cedar Park, and I copied the listing over, and it has the tax rate in it that was before, and it was significantly higher. And I'm like, okay, I got to erase that because the mud had gone away, and you could see where it had.
And so I would envision in these areas that have these new builds, they're probably at a lower county tax rate because there's just not as much going on. It's a smaller
Yeah,
city. It's
exactly.
outside in a smaller county. So as a potential buyer, you might look at that and say, hey, I'm going to buy this home. Tax rate in this area is only like, I saw one right now that is on 1626, which is technically in Manchac, and the tax rate is only 1.9.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I would envision that there is a mud tax that is going to come with that as well because it is a brand new community.
Correct.
But
it could be a PID though too.
well, what the hell does that mean?
What is
Okay.
a PID?
PID you can pay off up front. Usually they last, and oh my God, I'm gonna get stuck quoting this. I want to say it's 5 to 7 years around there. That's how
Mhm.
long you have on that payoff.
Okay.
But you can pay your PID up front at closing.
What's PID stand for?
Now you're just really putting me in a
Oh.
scenario.
It's all right. We'll Google it. We'll find out.
Public something.
District.
Thank you.
District.
Yeah.
I don't know the I, but
District.
I just know we have muds and we have PIDs. Muds are longer than PIDs. Is what
Okay.
I have in my
Muds are
mind.
more common, I think, than PIDs.
PIDs you're gonna have typically, and this is just not generalizing, but it's typically at higher price points.
Gotcha. Okay. I like it. Well, and again, I mean, we're seeing all of these new builds. That was one thing that James from Lone Wolf Realty, one of your team members, kind of went on a little bit of a rant in a positive way about the importance of making sure that you have representation when you're dealing with these, new builds, because a lot of people feel like if they just walk right up to that spec home and talk to the girl who's, sitting in the living room, that they're going to get a way better deal going unrepresented. And turns out that is certainly not the case.
Correct.
And then I've even had some individuals on here who have told horror stories of, not so much about getting a terrible deal, but the repercussions of repairs. I mean, everyone thinks when they're buying a new home that like nothing's going to go wrong with it. But we've seen and heard stories on here of plumbing issues within the first 6 months, stuff with roofs, stuff with, you name it. And I think at the end of the day, the moral of the story is when you're buying a home, it never ends. There's
Mhm.
always something.
Yeah.
and you're going to want to make sure that everything's checked out. I mean, even getting inspections on a brand new home, you have to do that.
At different stages too.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to have your foundation inspection, you're going to have your framework inspection, and then you're going to have your final walkthrough inspection.
Gotcha. So you mean to tell me that a brand new home doesn't mean that like nothing's, because, you know, as a lender, I run into it all the time. It's like, I want to buy a brand new home because I don't want to deal with any issues.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think that's not how this works.
Typically a few more.
Right.
And the upfront inspection cost is going to be a little bit more on new builds if you want to go through and protect yourself through all the stages.
Gotcha.
But the caveat is that it's easier to get stuff fixed. And
It is because you have
done because you have a warranty company, you have a builder that they're obligated
Mm-hmm.
to fix all the
Sure.
things. Where
Prior
if
to
you were to do
closing.
it, if you were to do it in a resale, they can be like, no, I'm not fixing that.
I gotcha.
So I have that too.
I have another take, and this is more of a question I'll poll.
Yeah.
We have had this debate on open houses
Mm-hmm.
on best time to do them.
Okay.
Okay, we are fully convinced that college football affects it more than anything else.
And NFL football.
So we'll make sure this comes out as
Yeah.
a clip. Open houses. When is the best time to do an open house?
So I have a theory.
We
And
have
I,
theory.
and I really, we have a theory, and I really want my theory to be proven wrong because then I can change my open house times and get more traction.
Mm-hmm.
Sundays, it's best to do it 10 to 1 o'clock. You're getting the entry level of the 12 o'clock games for NFL, but you're not cutting off the afternoon games, so you
Mhm.
kind of knock your stuff out.
Yep.
And this is not a selfish purpose of me wanting to watch. This is purely
This business.
most people I can get into the house
It's just
because
trends of humans.
I know what they want to do on those Sundays. Maybe you don't like NFL football and you're a college guy, and I'm going to favor Sunday open house.
Mm-hmm.
Saturdays, okay, it's basically impossible because there's games starting at 11 o'clock, and they go throughout the entire day. But for the city of Austin, I always look for when the Texas game is. Texas, OU, and AM game. If they can all be at 11 o'clock game, that is phenomenal because that means I'm starting open house right around 1 o'clock till 4.
Okay.
Okay?
Are
if
you
the-
fearful that you're going to just get like kind of buzzed up people coming in though?
So we were, I mean,
it's even better.
there were no people or no people. Last year is when we really started noticing it. We had I had a listing in Georgetown,
Mm-hmm.
and we would play the games during the open house, but we were realizing that no one was coming in during these times, and I was like, man, it's dead. But
With-
people were still going
We did the same thing at Pinehurst, too.
yeah, at Pinehurst too. So we would check to see if anybody else had people coming to their houses, and they just dead.
Well, let's reverse engineer this, right? Because this is something I've always done as far as sales is concerned, and I honestly don't have an answer, but this is what I would ask myself. So the first thing I always ask about when I'm trying to generate new business, which at the end of the day, that's what you're trying to accomplish
is.
with an open house, right? I think as salespeople, we initially think like, how many people can we get? But then one of the things that I think we forget about is like, what's going to produce the highest quality lead,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when I think about an open house and I think about the highest quality lead, from my experience, because I've also done open houses, the people who are like your highest quality lead are typically, let's face it, it's the wife, it's the woman, right? She's the one that's really, for lack of a better term, almost like dragging the guy to the open house. I rarely see like single dudes walking through an open house trying to get a feel for what their options are in terms of purchasing. It's usually a couple, and it seems that it's like, who's driving the bus?
And if you do see that guy go up through, you get a little uncomfortable as soon as he gets in the house.
but yeah, I mean, like, even if I did, and if I had to reverse engineer the single guy walking through the house, like, hate to say it, but I'm thinking like total looky-loo,
Mm-hmm.
right? Guy who's like, and I keep doing this is turning into like my thing, an investor,
Yeah.
you know,
Investor.
but like hasn't invested yet.
Yeah.
Maybe owns one rental property. You know who you are. So I'm just looking at it like, okay, like that's not really my audience, right? I'm looking for a serious buyer. And then I think about it like, okay, so if we have identified that like the serious buyer is the one that's almost like a couple, wife's driving the bus type of situation, like when is she going to be successful at getting him to come? Because let's face it, you'll see that single female, she's not single, she has a husband, but she's the one doing the legwork, and she's coming in, which that's like on A, B, and C buyers being no money, tons of time.
Mm-hmm.
B buyer being kind of a little bit of time, kind of a little money. A buyer is basically writing an offer, right? The single female who, again, not single in her relationship, but she's alone, that's your B buyer.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm interested in that. It's like, when is she going to come, right? And then more importantly, when is she going to be able to drag her significant other? When's he going to be good with it? So what I'm thinking is everything has to go down before the game, right? Like, it's got to go down before the game. Because we mentioned after the game, I just see that as like excuse central. Like, hypothetically, UT's on at 11.
Mm-hmm.
I'm watching the game. I'm relaxing. I'm chilling. I'm probably going to have a beer or two. And then when it comes time to look at this house, if you can get me to go, I'm totally uninterested.
So are we talking like 8 to 11?
Yeah, man, I think so. Like, I can definitely see more men getting, like, drug out of bed with the sale of, okay, honey, we're going to go look at a couple of properties, and then when you're done, you can turn on the game and you're done for the day.
Yeah.
Like, that to me, I'm sold.
It works. I think that works on a college.
Mm-hmm.
Because it works. So
I think
Sundays
it's-
we plan around the Cowboys
I
typically.
think it's
'cause
going to
that's-
work on NFL too because I'll be realistic. I get my ass on the couch and red zone is on.
I know.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So, like, the idea of going after the game, like, I think you drastically reduce your potential buyer pool.
Afternoon open houses are
I think so. I think so, man. I think anything in the afternoon, you're kind of wasting your time. Don't get me wrong. I know there's people out there like, I would come in the afternoon and this and that, but like, I really don't think you're that serious.
Yeah.
Right. So now, like, we don't want just like bodies in the house. We want people who are serious. Like,
Mhm.
I would rather have 2 serious buyers come in and get up in the morning and do the things than have 6 people come in and it's like 3 of them are neighbors, 1 of them's the investor, and then the other 2 just kind of showed up because they ended up looking at the houses that they actually wanted to see, and you just ended up being around the corner.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Let's caveat. What if you go to church on Sunday morning?
Because it's
That's a good
especially
point.
up north. I know that it is dead out there outside
You're
on Sunday
canceling
morning.
out-
Well,
or,
then I
like-
think we've identified that the best time to do an open house is Saturday morning.
Mm-hmm. So Sunday might just have to be out of play.
Yeah, I mean, Jesus is in football.
What
It's
else?
Texas.
What's more Texas than that?
I don't know. I mean, when people are like, why don't you do Sunday open houses? It's like, because I got to save time for Jesus in football.
Yeah, there we go.
That's a great answer.
We also talked about would it be more productive for us to find a football party on a Saturday and a Sunday instead? Because we're like, our clientele are probably sitting at home watching football all day.
Mm-hmm.
Like our friends, that's what they're doing. So would it be more productive for us to find
What do you mean?
like a get together where there's multiple people coming to one person's home?
Oh, for like marketing yourself?
yeah, for
So
for
not
us
a-
to meet more people.
Got it.
Of course.
Yeah, of course.
Well, and then you just gave me a great idea, and then you didn't even mean to, but I just came up with it. Why not do a broker's open at said house that's like an NFL football party?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not opening it up to the public. And I could see as a seller that being interesting. So now you're getting other real estate agents in, having those conversations, turning on the game, and enjoying a Sunday broker's open between like 12 and 4.
And this is going to be more of a luxury property, not
Right.
Yes.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to
There's
do
a
this.
bazillion TVs and
Yeah.
Exactly. Make sure. I mean, I would even say, they've got an outdoor patio and everything. Just keep everybody outside. Walk through the house, take a peek, and everything like that.
yeah.
But hit up Rudy's, get some barbecue. Like, brokers open Sunday. I'll cover half the cost.
You're
We
basically
got the
ta-
hookup at Rudy's.
You're basically
so.
talking about what we did for Super Bowl.
Yeah, but we're doing it now,
Yeah.
encouraging real estate agents to show up as a broker's open. Eat some food, watch some football. I already have a list of agents in my mind right now that I know would show up to something like that.
Okay, so Sunday going forward,
Going forward.
we let's make it a thing. I'm being totally serious.
I love it. This is where all the magic happens, man. When we're just
Brainstorming.
brainstorming, we record it, and other agents are going to watch this and they're going to be like, that makes a lot of fucking sense.
How long is this broker's open?
I think you got to run it for whatever the 12 o'clock game is,
Oh,
and
yeah,
if you
you need a
could
12 o'clock
if you
game.
could put it around, hopefully Dallas is playing a 12 o'clock game because at the end of the day it's all about the Cowboys. But then if you could run Red Zone,
I think that's what I'm thinking.
Right.
Keep red zone because
tell everybody to wear their home team jerseys and stuff, make it a little competitive. You got salespeople together, it's fun within reason. Do something with kids, like make it like 4 and above. You don't need any other like crazies. You don't need kids shitting or pissing on the floor type of thing in the house. But if we're keeping them outside, get the
Yeah.
pack and play out.
Yeah.
Let's go.
love it.
It's a great idea.
Pack and play as long as dad or mom is sober, and then if it's no kids, Uber.
Exactly. But I think we could get a little, 8 to 12 pack of people
Yeah.
Mhm.
and then get it on social media. I'll bring the camera. We'll showcase the property. We'll do all the things. Like, I don't know. Just seems like it's
That's
making more sense the more I'm talking about it.
In Texas, that will make a lot of sense.
Right.
This is now we're in California.
Not at all.
No. Because of football or Jesus?
Both.
Both. But yeah, I think open houses during football season on Sunday make no sense. I think
God,
that
that's a new business model. Leverage Jesus in football.
yeah. I think that you stop open houses on Sunday, run them on Saturday morning.
And then
I
do a
think that's
party
the
on
ticket.
Sunday during the Cowboys game.
Yeah, I mean if you've got the property for it or even just
Liberty
for
Hill's great property for that
for
one.
marketing purposes. I mean, again, I can't believe I'm going to bring it up. James Johnson, Lone Wolf Realty, said that one of the things that he's been doing during the downtime is really forcing himself to get out and socialize and
Yeah.
do more things because he is finding deals by having those conversations. And he even credited this podcast. He said he went on a vacation with a lot of people that he grew up with. And everybody was like, dude, I saw you on the podcast. That was awesome. And all it did was spark a bunch of conversations.
Yeah.
So, like, getting out there and doing it works.
I talked to you about that.
Mm-hmm.
He's decided to post on Instagram some more because he was never an Instagrammer. And he posted literally a picture of the Costco line on his Instagram because the Costco line was all the way to the back of the store. And he's like, I'm having so many people DM me. And I'm
Oh,
like,
for
28
sure.
DMs in,
no
in
kidding.
3 hours.
For sure.
I couldn't believe it.
People love Costco or hate the lines at Costco.
Did you see that post?
I did. I did.
He did not DM you.
Well, yeah, he doesn't need to DM me. I really don't want Matt sliding my DMs.
Yeah. No, I'm not a big DMer, but I get it. People, you got to think of topics that resonate, right?
Exactly.
And I think in this market, anything that you can do to, showcase any of your listings is super crucial. And here's another topic, not a topic, but another idea that I've had now for probably 4 years, and I have yet to see anybody do this. So quarterly, I'll usually put together like these networking events, right? And it's for business people only. And, we get together and there's brainstorming and we'll usually cater it and have a couple drinks and everything. Talk about business, try to connect, whoever is a good fit. So, for like a title company, we introduce them to new real estate agents. I've even had, things as insurance companies, anybody who's basically running their own business. How we had a cookie lady, right? Runs a bakery. And we find these like bars and restaurants to do this at. But I've always thought, why are we not doing like a quarterly event like this, which is just business owners and, entrepreneurs as like an open networking event at like a broker's open,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because at the end of the day, all you're trying to do is get people to view the house, talk about it, tell their friends. I know Brokers Opens is specifically geared towards real estate agents, but why would it be a bad thing to get business professionals? And again, this has got to be your higher end listing where we've got the space and everything like that. But on a general like networking event, if I had 2 weeks, I think I could even do it in a week and a half. I guarantee I could get 20 to 25 people there easily,
Mm-hmm.
To just see the place, have business conversations, open networking, so on and so forth. And I've been talking about this for 4 years and no one has done it. So I'm putting that out there. Agents, properties are sitting a little longer. I mean, obviously the last 2 years, that would have been a little tougher to do
Yeah, it
because
was
it's
hard.
tough to like book an event type of situation when, properties are going under contract in, 24 to 48 hours. But I'm seeing properties sitting, what's the average day on market? Look at that.
Well, where are we looking?
Broad
Area.
stroke.
63 days for all of us.
63 days broad stroke. So, that gives us an opportunity to really put something together, to book an event. I want to be a part of it. So that's my another public service announcement to all of you agents. If you've got a sexy listing, call me. Let's do a networking event there. And I'll bring all the cameras. We could even do a podcast at the event.
Yeah.
And we just get people to just sit down, and I'll host the damn thing, and we'll just rock for like an hour and have people kind of come in, sit down, introduce themselves.
Might have to invite New Heights.
What's that?
We might have to invite New Heights.
The Kelseys.
The Kelseys.
Yeah. There it is.
Get them posted up next to us. Oh, man. Maybe we can get T Swift.
I don't know.
Everyone shows
I
up.
don't know if we can do that. I
You know,
guess.
6 degrees, what is it, 6 or 7 degrees of separation. Somebody's got to know Taylor.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right?
You know, Travis Kelce grew up just a few miles from where I grew up.
Yeah,
so
don't you have a connection on that
I
one?
have to. I'll make some phone calls to my Cleveland people and see who knows him and if we can get her to one of our
You got
networking
any friends
events.
that play at Cincinnati?
Mm-mm. No. The Bearcats? No. But I'll make some calls.
Did you watch that podcast yet? Or that, not podcast, the Netflix on the
Mm-mm.
Kelseys? Go watch it.
I actually
good.
just canceled my Netflix.
Oh, you can have mine.
It's on Prime. It's not even.
I
on
have
Netflix.
Prime.
Oh,
I
really?
can't get
It's on Prime.
I
Oh,
can't
really?
I can't get rid of Prime for obvious reasons. Me entering grocery stores and department stores is something I haven't done in years, and I refuse to bring it back. But yeah, man, got rid of my Netflix, got rid of my HBO. I'm trying to to be honest, with all of the podcast stuff, it sounds terrible when I say it out loud, but like I've been on social media way more lately than normal because I'm doing all this editing
Yeah.
and monitoring these videos and getting stuff out and seeing what other people are doing, that I just really haven't been spending any time watching any kind of real television outside of sports. So I've got my ESPN Plus because I'm a big fight fan. So I watch my fights, I watch my football, big baseball fan, playoffs. I just don't have time for that, for any more of it with the social media stuff, man.
Did you see the Trevor Bauer announcement yesterday?
No.
Oh, gotta watch it.
Okay.
So,
Well,
speaking of sports.
Yeah. Okay, this is totally non-real estate related, but Trevor Bauer released a video because he now has both the lawsuits have been dropped from Lindsey Hill and himself,
Okay.
who initially accused him of I don't know, it was something on the sexual side of things,
Right.
that she was basically has text messages, has videos of her in his bed and everything else, and he now came out public, fully blasted her for everything she did.
Because he was allowed to.
Because he was allowed to, because the lawsuit required him to stay quiet, but he asked that he was allowed to speak publicly after the lawsuits were dropped.
Mm-hmm.
That was approved, and he came out yesterday with a full video on ESPN and all the different networks. And it was a little weird to watch, but props to the guy.
Yeah, it's funny because I have something that's kind of real estate related that I feel like ties into this. So I had a deal that was recently, we had some hangups because of the condominium complex with their HOA docs and everything like that. And for those that you don't know, of you out there, when you're purchasing a condo, there are certain things that the homeowners association has to abide by in terms of coverages with insurance and stuff like that. And so there are additional steps that are associated with any condominium complex, and we really need the homeowners association to cooperate. And this homeowners association was not cooperating. It wasn't like they just didn't seem to be very interested in any of our timelines that we needed in order to close. So we ended up getting everything that we needed and getting everything completed. And unfortunately, we needed one extra day to close this deal. Now, I didn't think anything of it because especially with the market that we're in, it's like,
What's a
homes
day?
just aren't flying off the market. What's a day? Like there's no additional cost to the sellers. I understand it's inconvenient, it's frustrating, but we're done. We even went to the extent of like forwarding the funds to the title company and everything along those lines. And I reached out to the listing agent and said, "Hey, we're gonna need an addendum to state that we can close tomorrow, because our current contract states we have to close today." And they were like, "Well, you guys are out of contract, so what are you going to do for us to be able to get this extension for an extra day?" And so the point of me telling this story, kind of like your Trevor Bauer story, I really hate the whole like opportunistic type of situation
Yeah.
where like people are looking for opportunities for other people to make mistakes and looking at it as like a cash grab.
Yeah.
Where it's like, look, everybody, first and foremost, no matter who you are in the transaction, the objection is for the buyer and the seller to have a good experience. We want a smooth transaction. We have closing dates so that people aren't like screwing around, but like nobody wants to blow a closing date. No one.
I'm curious to know if that was a listing agent bring up or if that was a seller request and if she crossed the line.
Well, I can only speculate,
Yeah.
and I won't.
Okay.
But again, the whole thing behind it is like I've had situations, again, not naming any names, but I've had situations where we've had appraisals come back at value, and I've had buyers disappointed that the home appraised because they wanted it to appraise for less than their initial offer in hopes that they could go back and renegotiate the purchase price. These are things and in real estate that just drive me crazy. Like I'll even name another one. Public service announcement to all buyers. When you present us your bank statements and your asset statements for cash to closing, we are not looking at the amount of money that you have with any intention of figuring out ways to get you to spend it. So we run into this a lot where people will have a savings account. God, I'm so glad we're doing this. This is totally a clip where they have a savings account and they have a checking account. And I'll say, I need your 2 months worth of asset statements to show that you have money to bring, we'll just say $25,000 to close.
I know where this is going.
And they'll send me over 2 months statements. And in this checking account, there's like an average balance of like $1,000. And then one day, boom, there's a $25,000 just injection of cash into.
Like, oh.
And so, of course, the government for anti-money laundering requires that we figure out where the heck that money came from.
Mm-hmm.
And so I will reach out to the buyer and say, hey, notice that you really keep like $1,000 in this account, and then all of a sudden there's a $25,000, injection of cash. And they're like, oh, yeah, that came from my savings account. It's like, okay, well, we need your savings account. So then they produce the savings account, and they're like hesitant because this savings account has, we'll just say, 50 grand in it. And they're afraid that I'm going to be like, oh, we got you now. Let's rack up the fees or whatever. Like, guys, that's not an option. That doesn't happen. It's not even something I could do if I wanted to. So be aware of that. But then it gets better because now the savings account has a deposit from a money market account.
And you're like, oh.
And now I'm like, I need the 2 months of the money market account because we have money that flowed from a money market into a savings, into a checking. And everybody's pissed because nobody has time and we're doing this all at the last minute. So again, going back to Trevor Bauer, this is just a life lesson. Like, I think just doing the right thing.
Yeah, just be a good human.
Like,
That's not-
like I think if you're looking for ways to like succeed by doing something that obviously it's not illegal, it's not, but it's not the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And why I think people do this? I think they do it
So you don't
because,
think they're gonna get caught?
well, yeah, I mean, sure,
Okay.
but no, I think the real reason is because I think over the last few years with all the craziness that's gone on with some of the COVID stuff and, some of, just presidential stuff and all of the craziness that you see when you turn on the news, there's just so much like distrust that I feel like is
Yeah.
like bleeding over into our business. And I think that like other people see people who got ahead, and sometimes it is done with like hardball tactics and ill will.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I'm here to say, I'm confident that those people are going to get theirs, right?
Yeah, like karma's coming.
Right. Like, do the right thing. Like, oh, well, you guys are one day out of contract. Like, the listing agent literally said to me, like, we could take your earnest money. And I'm thinking, like, do you know what that looks like? Like, do you know how difficult you're gonna jam this up, man?
Yeah.
You know,
Going back to the Lindsay Hill, Trevor Bauer thing.
yeah.
So the text message that was sent over from her friend was, "How are you to secure the bag?"
It's
She
like,
goes-
how do you get his money?
And
She's
she
just
said,
there
and
to
the
basically trying to get his
response,
money.
the response was, "I'm gonna act like a dirty whore
Ugh.
and secure the bag." Just found out he's got about 51 mil.
Yeah.
Next text
I mean,
message.
it directly correlates with
Yeah.
real estate. You're just
We
like
had Trevor
trying to
Bauer
say-
with the Indian or the
I know,
Guardians.
That's why I brought it up.
Yeah,
Exactly.
he was a stud.
And I got him at the Dodgers.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm a Dodger fan, but yeah.
Sorry, we forgive you.
I don't forgive you. I'm a Braves fan.
Braves suck. Okay, but let's pay that thought.
You're gonna secure the bag.
51 mil secure the. Oh, the next text after that was the Lindsay Hill's AA sponsor. Texts her, goes, "Are you gonna feel a little guilty about doing this?" She responds back, "Hell no."
So weird.
It's dirty. It's just,
Ugh.
I just feel you like feel icky.
Well, and I mean, I'll be the first to say I definitely get some icky feelings in
right?
real estate.
And and
You know, like I do. Like, there's always situations where like money is moving around. I mean, we had a situation last month where it was like, oh yeah, you know, these are gift funds for my grandma, and it's like, is it really your grandma? And like, you know, through investigation, like it's not their grandma, and it's, you know, it's like the daughter's sister's brother's abuela, and like, you know, like
We had one. It's like 2 years ago. Guy brought we're on a TV show, a full metal briefcase of cash to closing.
like what was it, like Deal or No Deal?
Yes. But it was a lot for like 65 grand. The guy brings a case of 65 grand to closing, and we're just like, yeah, that's not.
Yeah,
gonna
you
work.
can't do that. It's so weird. I've been doing this a long time, and that I have not seen.
And then you go deposit that to a bank, and then they, oh yeah, we're gonna tax you out.
Right.
Everything over
Flag
10,000.
that, flag
Here's
that.
your IRS document. Fill this out.
I don't know if that's stupidity or what. Just
Well, I think I know what it is. I mean,
well, so do I.
so well, no, I mean, I think we kind of do it to ourselves in the real estate community, right? Because you hear these situations where people are like, oh yeah, well, we made an offer on a property, but then they went with the all cash buyer.
Mm-hmm.
And when you hear all cash buyer, I think there's people that literally feel like somebody walked up with a briefcase
With
full of
that much,
cash.
yeah.
And, you know, presented it, and that's why they accepted the offer. So, you know, I'm here to tell you that all cash offers are not like
Physical.
$100 bills.
Yes.
And one of the main reasons why people like all cash offers is because they can close quickly, right? But one thing that people don't know is that you still have to go through escrow in terms of title. And
And HOA, if you have HOA.
yeah, I
And
mean, and
confirm
even the
survey.
fastest title companies out there usually aren't able to get title done in under 7 to 10 business days. So you're looking at 2 weeks, even if you do have a briefcase full of cash. And it's one of the things that we talk about all the time when I reach out to listing agents as far as the financing is concerned, because we try to do all the underwriting up front so that we can waive the finance contingencies.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we've closed deals in as little as 10 business days. And the only reason that it takes us that long is because we're waiting for title to transfer. Like,
And there's no HOA in those.
yeah, no HOA. That's true. Gosh, isn't it amazing how these HOA companies just do not care?
And they
Takes
just
forever.
they print money.
It's the weirdest thing. Like, you know, you would think that you would want homes in your community to sell because it's increasing. So here, HOA people, whoever's in charge of this HOA, like, it is in your best interest for real estate to change hands. I want you to think selfishly about this, because I think you feel like, I don't want to do any of this. None of this benefits me. Wrong. You live in that community. I believe you have to live in the community to be in charge of the HOA. So you live in that community, and real estate is changing hands. And that means your property values are increasing. And if you are slowing down or gumming up the process of purchases happening in your community, you are hurting the equity in your community. So do yourself a favor if you're on the HOA, or better yet, if you are part of an HOA, know who's in charge and make sure that they're not like just complete opportunistic, lazy people who are trying to like scrape the cream off the top for the HOA that they run.
On the flip side, to give them benefit of the doubt, the management companies are harder to deal with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
but maybe
actual-
we need somebody on the podcast as part of a management company. We need
I
an
would
HO
love
we need
that.
an HOA person and a management company person.
I would love
We can
that.
ask pertinent questions. to
I
these
will
people.
get so many questions and grill them like no other.
Management company, come to me.
Yes.
Slide into my DMs.
Slide
There you go.
slide into your DMs.
Yep.
Come defend yourself. We want to see.
Yeah, we want to talk to you. We want to find out what the heck is going on. But I think I know the answer. I mean, I think it's like anything, right? There's good lenders out there. There's bad lenders out there. There's good real estate agents out there. There's bad real estate agents. Good appraisers, bad appraisers. Good management companies, bad management companies.
Yep.
And anyone who's going to come on here and defend themselves is probably doing what they're supposed to be
Probably
doing.
good
Where
management company.
Karen, who is, head of HOA that nobody can get a hold of because she's so busy, right? Even though she's unemployed outside of the HOA, she is probably the one that we have issues with, and she is never going to come on this podcast. So,
Book club got away.
book club.
Hey, I have book club tonight.
It's for networking.
Do you really have book club?
I do. I have 2 book clubs.
No
I
kidding.
have my own book club with my friends, and then I have one for Cimarron Hills. That I go
Now, let's be real. Do these people in book club, are they listening to said books and then we're talking about them, or are we actually reading
that's
them?
my hot take. That's my hot topic.
Mm-hmm.
If you listen to an audiobook, you're not reading the book. You're cheating. That's a cheating.
Mm-hmm.
I read the books.
Okay.
And
Like a psychopath.
there's like a lot of people listen to them. So
I stopped reading about 6 or 7 years ago.
yeah, I
Well,
read
for
a lot.
pleasure. Still know how to read.
Alert.
Yeah.
I've read. I think I've read like
I'm
5
well
books.
read.
This month I've read like 5 books. It's good for you. Keeps
She's
straight.
read more books than I've read in the last
Serious
10
question.
years.
When do you find time to read?
At night.
At night.
Puts me to sleep. Or like if I can't, it helps me. Yes, it doesn't put me to sleep. So if I wake up, and right now I'm waking up at 1 and 3 in the morning. It's just being pregnant. That's
Pregnancy
life.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if it's 1 o'clock in the morning and I can't go back to sleep, I will open. On my phone I have my books, and so I'll just sit there and read for a little bit, and then I'll go right to sleep.
Well, it's interesting to me because I had another real estate agent on here. Jeanette Spinelli was on here, and she was kind of, talking about some of the books. And so it seems to be a common theme. I actually know a real estate agent in Ohio with the Art of Real Estate who posts a book, I think like every 3 months. She does like 3 books a month or something. Big reader. And I always wonder, like, when do you find time to read?
Yeah.
And I guess I could find time to read, but
Yeah, or when he's playing golf and I want to be out. I just want to be outside.
yeah.
And hanging out. I'll read while he's going around with everyone.
So what are you reading right now?
So right now I'm reading what everyone's reading is The Court of Mist and Fury. It's a
That's what everyone's reading?
yeah. It's ACOTAR.
What does that mean?
It's a fantasy.
Fantasy, okay.
It's fantasy romance, whatever.
Do we want to talk about what you've also been reading?
I also right now I'm in a thriller. It's October.
Okay.
I'm in a
Listen, I'm not judging.
yeah. September, October. I've been on
I
a
am.
thriller kick, so I'm like reading about murders and
Right. So, okay.
it's great.
Name your first book you're currently reading that everyone's reading.
It's A Court of Mist and Fury. It's the 2nd book in a series.
Okay. And then the thriller?
The thriller, I've read The Housemaid. This month, it's The Housemaid. I've read The Housemaid 2, the second book to it. And then Little Secrets, which was really good. That was one of my book club books.
And then for us who are actually paying attention, is there anything that you've read that is just so good that you would make like a broad stroke recommendation?
No.
No?
Not to men are hard. You guys don't read.
Okay, well, just to the
Just
female
women?
audience, sure.
A lot of it's, I would recommend The Housemaid because I just read it and it's really good. It's got a twist in it.
Okay.
I wouldn't, if you're a mom, I would not recommend reading Little Secrets because literally in the first chapter.
Don't spoil it.
It's in the syndicate. It's in the
Prologue.
not even the
It's
prologue.
like written on the back of the book.
It's written on the back of the book. The
Whatever
child,
they
the,
call
the
that.
child's
The
abducted
Dipper.
in like the first 5 pages.
Oh,
So if you're a
okay.
mom, it's kind of scary. But
What about the sex books?
oh yeah, see, I don't know. We're not gonna.
Yeah, no, you can definitely get there.
There's the spicy books. I read a spicy book recently. It was just-
All right. Well,
That's-
there's our daily nerd alert.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you need any book recommendations, DM me. I got
I
it.
actually think that clip is going to do a lot better than I think. I really do, because I'm like now thinking about all of these agents that are putting these books out and they're like recommending them. And for a minute there, I just thought it was like a topic to talk about and like, agents trying to figure out content, but it must be working, right? Like they have to be
Yeah.
getting something from it. Not the reading part, the like,
Just talking about books. And
right.
connecting on. Because ACOTAR, which is the series that I'm reading, it's called A Court of Thorns and Roses. On TikTok, like that is, you can get on a whole side of TikTok that's just that. And like I feel like everyone's read it. I know you two are like, this is ridiculous, but I'm telling you that it's a thing with women specifically.
Okay. Listen.
Again,
It is a
not
fat book
judging.
though. It's like 800 pages.
Listen, there's one thing, the older I get, the more I recognize that there are just certain things that are different between men and women.
That's what I
And I am like, I'm not even trying to fight it or understand it. It's just the way it is. And, you know, that's the beauty of it all,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, I mean, and then also if we're watching a football game that I don't care about, I like football. I watch sports.
Sure.
I love sports. If we're watching a football game I don't care about, I can just sit there and read, and he can watch football.
That's a good point.
It's just like you just have your own thing while they have their own thing.
Okay, I'll back her up on this one. It is more enjoyable when you can read and you're reading how many words per minute?
I do read really fast. He can't read very fast.
Mm.
I can read like 20 words. Yeah, my reading is.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was reading, I am a fairly quick reader, but I cannot even come close. Like when I listen to books, I listen to them at 1.5 times.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no way I'm reading as quickly as I'm listening to these books. And then a lot of the books that I'm doing are kind of more like informational.
Yeah,
So I'm kind of trying to absorb information. I don't do a lot of,
If I do those kinds of books, whether it's self-help,
yeah,
health, or business
real estate
model, real
stuff,
estate, whatever,
yeah.
I listen to it just because I'm not going to get through it by reading it. It's not going to happen for me.
I
Gotcha.
listened to Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah, it was a good. I actually read that book. That book is so old. That was before books on tape. Shout out to Mike Dewar. Mike Dewar and I, he was the one guy that I really got to go down the rabbit hole with me years ago. And as far as we were doing books on CDs
Mm-hmm.
when like before Audible and everything
What's
like
that?
that. Yeah, right. Compact discs. You know, where we would like trade them and stuff and buy them. And gosh, even Rich Dad Poor Dad, I had knocked out, but we started doing the trading of books and all of that kind of stuff probably in like 06, 07. And that was like, that's when I pretty much stopped reading. So it's been a while.
I remember those. We had Harry
So I
Potter.
learned how to read.
We had,
Yeah,
that's just
sorry.
when I
A
learned
lot
how to
younger
read,
than
too.
me. That's when
We
Matt
had
and Kaylee
that.
learned how to read in 06 and 07. Yeah,
Okay, not really. But
showing my age.
But yeah, I remember we had Harry Potter on disc. I think we still have them actually.
You know, I have only done a few books that are like pleasure. Like, what did you call it? Ecutar?
ACOTAR's the name of it, but
What does that mean?
the name of the book. It's
Oh, that's
A Court of Thorns and Roses. They call it ACOTAR.
You got to be kidding me. They shortened that to ACOTAR.
Yeah, it's like the ACOTAR series.
So like Game of Thrones, it was like GOT.
Yeah. God.
You know, my my partner, my
LFG.
girlfriend is from Europe, and she says that is like a total American thing to do. That like they do not do that over in
Really?
Europe, where we just shorten everything. And this will actually age fairly well. I used to work with a guy named Toby Koth in the mortgage industry, and I'll never forget what he said to me when one of the other guys, his wife was having a baby, and he's like, "Whatever you name your child, make sure that whatever the shortened version is, that like you don't totally hate it, because that's what everyone's gonna call your kid,
Yeah.
no matter what."
okay, we're good.
And I think about that because, you know, you get women who are like I had one of my friends, they're naming their kid Sebastian,
Yeah.
right?
Sebs.
We have Sebs. We have a
And,
friend that's named Sebs.
Well, they were hoping people were going to call him Bash, I guess is what
Oh,
you
yeah,
like
I've seen-
shorten it to. But yeah, like Sebs, stuff like that. And I remember she was like, his name will be Sebastian, and that's what people are going to call him.
Sebastian.
And I'm like, that's never going to fucking happen.
It's never.
Never. Like, you know, and of course she's looking at me like, you're an asshole. Like, you're the problem. I'm like, trust me, it's not just me. Like, no one's calling your kid Sebastian. It's just not going to happen. So there you go. You guys will be all right.
Lily.
Lily.
Yeah, that's as short as it's gonna get. You get Lil.
Yeah, you can get
Lils.
Lil.
Lils.
You'll get that. But that's not terrible.
No,
No.
I mean that's good.
Right? Well, good. Good. When's the due date again?
January,
January.
unless she's you know,
Aquarius.
unless she's early
Water
in December.
sign.
Waters.
We got
I
a
don't even
big,
know what
we got
that
a
is.
big baby coming. Might be early.
Yeah.
December.
You know, that stuff always kind of
Big
interests me too, because like I've seen situations, again, being a lot older than you, and like all of my friends have had kids already, and they're all a lot older. And I've seen big babies be born really big and then not grow up to be very big.
Yeah.
And I've seen like little babies, you know, that, oh, she's going to be real tiny. And then
Just
she's
an
like
animal.
5'10".
Yeah.
I was
you
a,
know?
I was a 6-pound baby and I'm 5'9". So it's like
See?
I'm the exact
It's
exactly.
like you never know, man.
You were a 10-pound baby.
Yeah, I was big baby.
I'm just going to stick with those fur babies,
Yeah.
you know,
It's
like
actually valid.
good
We have those
choice.
too.
like my girl. I remember when I got her, I remember going and picking her out, and I had like bought her sight unseen. Like I knew she was coming, and I was like, I want the largest female out of the litter, because I had like put money down before anybody else, because most people, you know, they want to like see the dogs first, and yeah, I don't know what. But anyway, so I like paid in advance, and they were like, all right, well, when all the puppies are born, you can have the largest female. And I got her, and she was bigger than any of my other Dobermans as a puppy. And I was like, she's going to be so fucking big. And she's like 75 pounds, which is totally
She's, like,
average.
normal.
Yeah, she's like totally average size. And I thought she was going to be some monster. And so, yes, back to children instead of dogs.
No.
Same.
Hey, our yellow lab's the same way.
She was
pu-
stunted.
Big puppy. She was stunted with parvo, but
Mm.
still, like puppy-wise, bigger paws.
Yeah,
She's a 45-pound lab.
right. That's small for a lab.
Tiny.
Well, what else we got, guys? I know y'all have to run. This is going to be good. I got to admit, going back to everybody who's listening and those who have been on, you know, we get you on the first podcast, kind of talk a little bit about what it is you do and a few topics and everything. But I've really been enjoying, because we're really getting into like these second, third rounds and everything like that. And I feel like this is where the fun stuff really opens
Yeah.
up. People are more comfortable. We talk a little bit about real estate. We pop some jokes, you know, talk about the personal
Talk
stuff.
about
and
books.
Books. Listen, that book one I know is going to, you're going to have all these women who are going to be like, I read, oh
What
my
book?
God, ACOTAR is the best book ever.
Can I be in your book club?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There you go.
We're doing
Hit up-
virtual.
Slide into Kaylee's
Slide into the
That
DMs.
DMs.
might have to be a YouTube
I'll
video.
add you into my book club.
Adding on to that, we have a YouTube channel called Living in Austin, Texas.
There you go.
Everything eat, sleep, play, breathe, everything in between in Austin, Texas. Go ahead, give it a subscribe. There might have to be a book one in there.
I mean, yeah.
Okay.
we can make it
Any
happen.
other announcements, parties, you know, anything that we need to know about that y'all are doing from now until, you know, the next
which-
couple of
Okay,
weeks?
I'm not going to schedule it yet, but the open house football idea might be a thing going forward. And
Yeah.
we might just make it a running thing.
Yeah.
I think that'd be awesome. I would like to watch football at a freaking multi-million-dollar mansion. That sounds really cool.
He's like, this is a great idea. He's like, he's only thinking about, I want to watch
Yeah.
football.
Maybe they might leverage like. You
But
get-
if I want to, someone else has to,
Right,
and that's the
exactly.
idea.
And if he gets in there and then the wife wants to buy the house, then they're not going to think about the rate, and they're just thinking about, oh, it was so great watching football in this house.
Hey, we
You
can
could
do a
feel
book
like you live
club.
there.
We could
Yeah.
do the book club on the side. So like all the guys can go watch football. Women, if you don't want to watch football, let's talk
Yeah.
about a book we've read.
Men, we can sit on the patio of a multi-million-dollar residency watching Red Zone. Women, you could go into the den.
Yeah, talk about books. Talk about wine.
You
I
guys
can't
have
drink it right now,
one?
but wine would be great too. Tequila.
Moderation's on.
Yeah. All right, guys. Appreciate you having on. We'll get this one out quick. And again, the rest of you that want to come on, get on here.
HOA.
HOA. I do. I want to get an HOA company on here, management.
Yep.
All right, guys. Good stuff.